It's been a couple weeks and I'm out here. The plan is to get some dirt moved today and to get some of the dirt that I've already moved compacted with this pad foot. So this is a pretty heavy load on this trailer, and that's why I've got this heavy duty gooseneck. And I don't know if you saw the video where I basically made the bed on this truck. It's a 4-parter, but this is why I built this truck, for being able to carry this kind of heavy load. So anyway, let me get this thing unloaded and start getting to work. This will be my first time using this on an actual job. So I just tried to smooth this down a little bit with the bucket, and it's actually looking pretty good. And so before I add any more fill on top of here, I want to at least do what I can with the compactor here. So, and you always want to use a pad foot, because on a slope like this, if you used a smooth roller, you would make just like a slick, smooth, compacted surface here, like a layer. And then when you put the next layer of dirt on there, there's a chance it could slide along that cleavage area. And so that's why you want to use a pad foot, which will leave little dimples so the two layers can lock together. Let's see how this thing works. This machine has the power attach on the bucket, and what you see me doing here is lifting it up and releasing it and just looking to make sure the pins release. Once they release, I know I can drop the implement, and then when I attach the new one, I lift it back up and watch, and then I put some down pressure on it to make sure the pins are attached. I've only been here a couple hours, but I've got some other stuff to do today. So it's looking pretty good. I got quite a bit moved and compacted. Compaction is definitely the name of the game if you're going to be building. Now, I'm not going to be building on this for probably at least a year, and so that'll allow this to settle. But boy, just putting it down in layers, lifts, and compacting and keeping going, you can't go wrong, as opposed to just filling this in and walking away and hoping for the best. So this is pretty darn. And when I was bringing the loads over here, I was trying to track in a different spot, so I was compacting a little bit with the tracks as well. But yeah, I may end the video here and have this be the first installment, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep working my way into the bank right there. And these trees, these poplars, and I think that's a gum, will be coming down at some point. We're back out here. I've made quite a bit of progress since the last video. Mainly, I found a guy who was getting rid of all this, and this represents 40 dump truck loads of basically, I think it was like gravel parking area that they're doing something different with. And so that filled in quite a bit. This is really, really good material. It's almost too good to be used as fill, but I got it for dirt cheap. So that's what I used. Ronald and I were over here clearing a little bit yesterday, and we burned some stuff. And I also made the pile over here. Took a couple other trees down, started a pile there, so that'll be a big burn. And yeah, I thought I'd bring you all along and update you a little bit. So the main goal for the first part of this is to get a couple sticks of 48-inch culvert in the creek down there. And it's dried up pretty much right now, so now would be a good time. But yeah, that's where we're at with this thing. We good? Yeah. That gum tree is burning up pretty well right there. And then this pile down here has been going for about an hour. So that's pretty hot. A little bit too hot to get close to it with the axe, but I've been trying to push it in a little bit, but it'll burn down. And I guess we're gonna go ahead and get some lunch. But it's a little overcast day. It sprinkled earlier, so it's a good day to burn. Really no wind. Rain in the forecast later, so good day to burn. I'm back out here today on this lot, and the plan today is to get some logs out of here. So I took the tailgate off my dump truck, and I've got my big X over here. So I'm gonna try to load up a load and get rolling. Forgot my tape measure, so the guys next door there, they were nice enough to lend me one because the log drop place wants specific lengths. So I want to try to maximize what I've got here versus what I can get out of them money-wise. So that's what I'm doing today, loading up some logs. I spent a lot of time trying to keep these logs in good shape and keep them long, and I tried really hard to sell them, and I just could not find anybody who wanted to pay anything for these things. I had white oak, red oak, gum, maple, and poplar, and just nobody. I said, you cut them to whatever length you want, I'll load your trailer, and nobody wanted to give you even $1 for them. People were fine to come and get them for free, but nobody wanted to pay anything for them. So I found a log drop place that pays by the ton. They pay $35 a ton, but it's about 45 minutes away. So here I needed to get rid of these, and so what I decided to do is just take a couple loads over there and see how it shook out. So that's what I'm doing here, is just loading up and trying to cut them to the lengths that they want, and use my dump truck that I've got and take them out there. Okay, well, I've got a load on that thing. Got a big chain around it. So I guess I'm ready to head out of here. And made a pretty big dent in the pile here. So there's a log drop place, but it's about 40 minutes away. So I'll take you along and we'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm over at the log dump place and I just dropped it. So it did pretty well. I'm back out here working on my lot, and I wanted to give you guys a quick update. So I got those logs hauled off of here. The log drop place cuts checks on Thursday, so I'm waiting to see how I made out. But it was about 22 ton of logs. There's a couple extras here. And just looking at the topography here and some of the neighboring properties, they're all quite low in elevation. So what I've started doing here is cutting this down a little bit, and you're probably about 4 feet right here. I basically took it to the level of this ditch was my idea, and that ditch just goes under the road right there. There's like a little piece of road right here. There's never any water that comes out of there. I've been out here multiple times during the heaviest rains. Nothing ever comes out of there. And so this ravine is slowly filling in, and so one of my main goals is to get a 48-inch culvert in over there. So this is kind of a pain. I'm not really sure the best way to take this space down 4 or 5 feet with the equipment that I have. So what I've been doing is breaking it up with my excavator, which does really nicely, and then just kind of pivoting it, dumping it over there, and then just pushing it over with the Bobcat. So I was kind of looking at some bulldozers today, but this is not that huge of a space, so I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to keep working. This has been working pretty well to break it up with the larger machine, the X. And then I've got these fluffy piles here, so then I can just push those over with the skid steer. And it's worth noting that if you came over here and like took a bucket and picked it up and moved it, you could carry so much, but when you push, you can move a lot more material with the Bobcat. And so you'll see me trying to like push it in a big pile and just push it over the edge. So that's been working pretty well. So now let me get this all pushed over and cleaned up, and then I'll start chewing into the next section. Okay, well, this is going pretty well. Obviously, the further we go into the bank, the greater the distance I have to travel, so I may end up bringing my small single axle International over here and just loading it, backing it up and dumping it, because and we're going, this is like building out, so we're getting further and further in both directions. But anyway, it's actually working pretty well. I was kind of worried about this with these two machines, but they seem to be doing pretty well. What do you all think? I'm back out here today, and I brought a dump truck, and what I think I want to try doing is loading the dump truck and then just backing it over there, even though I don't have a Bobcat on site. So this is my new single axle dump, and I've done a bunch of work to this. Haven't had it on any jobs yet, but it seems to be running pretty well. This is a 30, I think it's a 33,000 or 30 something. But anyway, this is a big one. So this will haul 10 ton legally, 7,400. But anyway, the first thing I need to do here is build a little ramp or road to get down to this lower level down here. So I think what I want to do is just right in this area, just try to turn this into a ramp right here. So let me see if I can scratch away at that with the X and make something work. Okay, so I've got a little ramp here. Let's see if I can get this dump truck down to this lower level. See how we do. That went pretty well. Hopefully I can get back out of there. I didn't even think about that, but I'm backed up and I'm going to dig from the top up here, and then I guess I'm just gonna turn around and back up. I thought about just leaving it facing forward and trying to load it and then just backing up and dumping, but I think it'd be better to have my bed closer to where I'm digging here. Anyway, let's see how we do. Okay, there's my first load. So let's see how it does. I may be onto something here. This may go a lot faster than I was thinking. Three loads dumped. I'm looking at about an 8-minute cycle time. So this might be pretty doable. Okay, this is going really, really well. And I'm at the point now where I kind of need to push these piles in before I start getting them too deep. A couple of them are 2 piles deep right there. But I did not bring my Bobcat back over here. I almost hooked the trailer to this and brought it back with me, but I guess this was more of a proof of concept to see if this would work. I think it's going to work pretty well. I brought this smaller one to give it some, I guess, some experience. I haven't really used this truck very much, but also I thought it might have a better turning radius in here, and it's actually doing really well. So I guess I am going to hook onto that yellow equipment trailer and take it home. But yeah, I've only been here a couple hours and it's gone pretty darn well. I definitely need to work on my grading skills. It's definitely going shallower here, but once I get a Bobcat over here, I can start to tidy this up and then move on to the next segment that I'm going to be cutting out. So yeah, this is going pretty well, and I'm all hooked up over here and ready to roll. I'm back out here this morning and I brought a Bobcat with me and some help. So we're going to get that pushed in, get these piles pushed in, and maybe drop some more like we were doing yesterday. So that's what the plan is for today. So let me get this thing unloaded. I got the Volvo unloaded, got to drop the trailer, and we are filling up the excavator. I told Karina when I built this transfer tank with the hand crank, I only had a mini Bobcat and a small X, so I was only pumping like 5 gallons at a time. That's why I did a hand crank instead of a electric. But now that's biting me in the butt. You may need more of a running start. Okay, she is going to be pushing those piles in and I'll be digging and filling up the dump truck. So hopefully we can make quick work of this with this little double duty going on here. But she's never run this machine before, so she's in for a treat. into anything. dirt. All right, we are calling it a day, but we got quite a bit of material moved today. So look at this. It's coming along pretty well. I'm out here today working on this lot. We have gotten quite a bit of the bank taken out of there, and eventually I'm going to be taking these trees down and taking the rest of the bank out. But what I want to work on today is dealing with this drainage ditch down here. Let me get you down there. This is pretty much just a drainage ditch that is not permanent, but it is still, it has a lot of characteristics of a well-developed creek. So the county gave me permission to put a culvert across here. And what I want to do here, if you look at it, you can see that it swings out right here, and then it swings back. And part of the requirements, I need to be 25 feet from basically the bed here, the creek bed, with the toe of my slope. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fake it a little bit here, and I'm going to dig a new creek bed across here, which will be a much straighter run, and that will give me however much feet we have here. And then also my culvert will be halfway buried because I'll be going into this slope right here. Now this parcel over here, the only way to access it is through a culvert, which is why they're letting me do it. I don't know that I would actually be going across the culvert. but I do have 3 sticks of 48-inch double wall culvert to mess with. And what I want to get done today is I want to see how I do digging. I do have my root hook here, but the 36-inch bucket is on this machine, so you can see there's a lot of rocks in here, and I almost brought my 2-foot bucket just in case I hit any kind of craziness. But you can see I've got a couple trees here. There's a poplar. I already pulled a few little trees out of here to make some space. Those 2 are poplars, and whatever is going on there. So that's what I'll be working on today. And I brought a chainsaw and a couple things, so I'll be busy today. I brought this little saw down here just because it's a lot lighter than a big one. I wanted to show you a couple more shots here. This ditch does hold a little bit of water, and you can see there's some in there, but we had quite a bit of rain not too long ago, and it does come screaming through here during a heavy rain, but pretty quick after a rain it kind of stops. So normally if I was digging a trench like this near water, I would probably dig it from the opposite side so that when I hit the water will flow in the new trench, instead of digging a trench and then the water flowing and being in my way. But this is not really that much to worry about, and so I think since I'm here, I'm just going to start and see how it goes. So anyway, this guy, I'll have to get him out of here at some point, probably when I'm working my way this way a little bit, or I could just chain onto it and drag it out of here. But I really want to get this ditch rolling, so that's what we're doing now. This is going pretty well so far. It's really, really rocky. I'm worried about breaking a tooth, but I think I'm to the point now where I need to pull these other 2 poplars out of here. See them back there. So let me see how we do with those. I think they want to go that way. probably into the creek bed. That sucker is hung right up. Whew. So what I'm going to do here is try to break up the dirt, lighten that up, and then try to pull it this way and get it to pull out from under there, under the hang up. If you were sawing and didn't have a machine on the job, that would be a major disaster right there. But let's see how we do. Uh-oh. All right, look at that. What a pain. That is one poplar. Down. Check out that carnage. Well, that's what happens sometimes when you're messing with these things. And that was a pretty big rock. It's important to note, when you've got a piece of equipment on the job, you don't necessarily need to cut through all the way. I see sawyers all the time, they just have to cut it all the way, even if it means digging the saw into the dirt, or in this situation where we're downhill, because I only brought that small saw, this is a little bit of a scary situation where you're downhill where the log could roll. So typically you would make this cut from the uphill side, but my saw didn't reach all the way across there. So I've got most of the way through it. I'm gonna now tug on it with the excavator in a safe manner. See how funky that cut was because my saw is so small. I just didn't want to carry that 36-inch one all the way down here. But anyway, that is how you do that. That's why when you've got a machine on the job, things change. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, I got this ditch sort of dug, and see if I can get this guy out of here. And the idea being that once the water starts flowing through here, it'll carve itself out a little bit better than I did. So if it can be working away while I'm doing other stuff, that's the idea. Especially pushing in and getting closer to this little creek bed here. So yeah, let's see if we can get this machine out of this ravine. It's definitely interesting crawling a huge machine like that in and out of a steep embankment. And I know it doesn't show up as well on the GoPro. I know that from mountain bike videos. But I brought that bigger stump with me on my way out. So I'll get a pile of those going. And they get taken off to the stump dump. It was a little bit tight maneuvering around in here with that larger machine, but I think it did a good job. So once this wears in a little bit, I'll come in here and put my two big culverts in. And I tried to take it out over here and put it over there so it'll deflect the water down the new ditch. But I guess we will find out soon enough. So now I can really start filling this thing in and not have to worry about it too much. Well, I'm just looking around at what I maybe want to get done today. It's almost 12, and I've been just kind of like chewing away at this bank. And I talked to one of my buddies, the guy who actually sold me this lot, and I was thinking about turning this into okay, so I'm putting so much dirt in here that it's going to take a couple years for it to fully settle. So you can't build over top of that. So what I'm going to do here, my plan is to turn it into a gravel yard and rent it out to like a landscaper or somebody. So I was talking to my buddy. I've got my entrance. Do I want to keep this row of trees in this huge bank for more privacy or whatever? And he was like, nah. He's like, you're here, you're working. He's like, take these trees out, take the bank, throw it in the ravine. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Here you can see if I can maybe keep this little slope here down, so maybe some of this. And then I think what I want to do right now, I've got the root hook over here, but since this is all coming out anyway, I don't really care if I dig a giant hole to take these trees out. And hopefully you can see just how much we've taken out over here. It's quite incredible. But anyway, I think my plan right now is I've got like a terrace here and then the main level there. I think I want to bring this out, blow this bank out, take the trees and put the loose stuff over there, and then I can hopefully load the loose stuff and, you know, pull these trees out too, and then possibly burn them tomorrow. There's a really big white oak right there. So yeah, I guess I'll start doing that. Let me see if I can get some cameras going. Well, I've been digging for about maybe 15 minutes, and I think I need to bring my dump truck back over here, because what I'm doing now, I'm going to end up moving everything twice, because it's still got to go over the ravine. so it might make more sense to bring the dump truck. My little single axle has got a muffler that's broken, so I may have to bring my tandem over here. Or I could bring the F550 over here. I just don't think it makes sense to dig it over there and pile it up here when I could be dropping it in a dump truck and then zipping it across like I was before. Okay. Well, I'm back out here. I have got my small F550. My single axle dump is, the muffler is rusted out of it, so that's on order. And I've got a couple errands to run later today, so I wanted to bring this smaller truck. But let's see how we do. I think it's just going to be way better than trying to move this twice. Dig it, drop it in the truck, move the truck and dump it. So, all right, let's do it. That looks like a pretty decent load on that little truck. And it looks like we got a little froggy over here, so I don't want him to get caught. There he goes. Okay, let me go dump this. I just got the call I was waiting for, so if it's okay with you guys, I'm gonna drop this and head on down the road. And I'll be over here tomorrow with my tandem and probably a skid steer. This is Sean. I'm gonna end part 2 here, and I've got a ton more coming up. So if you enjoyed this second installment, let me know in the comments below. And with that, I'll get to work on part 3. All right, take care, and I will see you in the next one.